Hey guys, today we're going to be recreating this shot from Season 2 of Squid Game.
Player 432. Looking for these.
Okay, here we are in After Effects, and we have our footage layer, a preview of the color correction, and a still plate. So this still plate is something we shot at the end. Ideally, it would have matched up exactly to this last frame, but we unfortunately moved the camera a little bit and then shot it. So you can even see that it's dimensionally not quite the same size or angle. So I'm going to hide that for now. And then this color correction is a LUT to mimic the final color correction done by Brandon Jones of Swatch 4. So I'm working with log footage from the Alexa 35, the same camera they shot Squid Game on. So first we want to track this clean plate into the shot. So to do that, I'm going to open up our footage layer and I'm going to add Mocha to it. So I'll go ahead and add Mocha Pro.
Mocha Pro, Mocha Pro, Mocha Pro.
But for this type of tracking, we could do it with the free version of MochaAE. So I need to track both walls. I know from experience that instead of tracking this entire wall on the left, I'm gonna do a little bit better by tracking a smaller area here. And on the right, I'm going to try to track as much as I can here, including this outlet down here. And then I will track backwards. If you want to learn more about tracking with Mocha, I'll leave links to a couple tutorials below. So I'll go here to the last frame and I will set the left wall to extend to the corners, and I will do the same for the right wall. And then I'm going to save this. And you see that since this plate is not quite the same dimensions and size as the footage, I'm going to pre-compose it, move everything into a new composition, and call it plate. And then I'm going to duplicate this and make one for left wall and one for right wall. And then I will take this footage and I'm going to create track data, and I'm going to find the left wall, and I'm going to go to corner pin support motion blur and find the left wall and apply this. And then I'm going to do the same for the right wall. And so now I'm going to draw a little mask along here, just so we can tell if this is working. And I will do the same thing for this left wall here. And I try to kind of draw it just so we don't have a potential little jump in like the text here. I try to draw it just in the blues, knowing that we could feather that out. And so maybe we'll draw it kind of like somewhere in here. And it can kind of cut right through the head since we're going to be adding that head back on top. And again, you see some color shift and stuff in here. We're going to feather this out a healthy amount so we won't see it. And then since this plate doesn't quite extend to the edge here, we're just going to punch in a slight amount at the end. There's other ways you could fix this, but the easy way is just going to be to punch in just a slight amount there. So if we watch this now, you can see that the plates are moving with the shot. The next thing I'm going to do is duplicate this footage layer. I'll use the Rotobrush tool to isolate John and Andrew's head. So ideally, these bodies would have, if I turn off all these other layers, ideally both of these bodies would have stayed behind the front man here. But you can see Andrew's shoulder goes in front of it a little bit. I'll here increase the brightness so we can kind of see a little bit better. I'm going to go back to our footage and go back in here into Mocha. And so now I'm going to just do a track on the coat here. And again, I'm going to do a regular planar track. I think we could also do a mesh track since this coat is a little bit more complicated, but it stays pretty flat in our shot. So I think we can get away with a flat track. Something you can do in MochaAE. Well, once we go into using mesh, that is going to require you to have a Mocha Pro license. And so I will track this backward. I'm going to turn off the walls, and I'll similarly expand the surface for the coat. And then I'm going to come over here and turn off the coat so that doesn't track. So now I'm going to draw a spline around the head here because I want to extend this mask up here. And then I'm going to draw a spline around this part of the coat because in the previous shot, this is closed. So continuity reasons, I want to close that up. And so now I'm going to track both of these masks, and we'll call this maybe like neck area and mask. And I'm going to track these forward as well, and then track it backwards. And for these, since they go off frame here at the end, I'm going to set the starting frame as the frame I expand this planar surface to. Then I will save out of here, and I'm going to select this frame, and I'm going to send this to Photoshop. So my little hack for sending this to Photoshop is to open the Content Aware Fill panel, and then creating a reference frame. By creating a reference frame, it will create a Photoshop file in the same directory as your project. And again, I'm moving kind of fast through some of these things because they are things that I've covered before on this channel, but I will link those tutorials below if you want to check them out. So here in Photoshop, I'm going to select this region of the jacket, and I'm just going to run Generative Fill and see what it gives me. And I know it's dark, but I think any of these can work. Let's go with this second one. And then similarly, I'm going to expand the bounds of this mask. And this gives us a couple options. The cool thing about this is it kind of respects the current lighting that's there. It just kind of helps hide the hoodie and hairline. It looks a little bit cooler. I will save this back in After Effects. I will freeze frame this single layer, and I'll move this under the color correction preview. And then I will just select the part of the mask here that was added. I'm going to duplicate this and select this area of the coat here. And I will call this coat neck and mask extend. And then I'm going to come down here and create track data for the neck area and apply that to the coat neck. I will then select the tracking data for the mask and add that to the mask extend. And now when this starts moving, you can see that this moves with this. And if I toggle over here, I can turn on motion blur for these things. And since they were, I can do this for the wall as well. And now all of these elements should have the same amount of motion blur when the camera pans down. So this is looking pretty good. I'm going to add an adjustment layer here at the end that I'm going to add a transform effect and punch into about maybe like 106 just to make sure we get past some of the stuff on the edges. And that's looking pretty good. So let me turn this off, and I'm going to put this below the color correction. I'm actually going to make the color correction here a guide layer. So that way when we go to render, it will render the flat video so we have full autonomy to do color correction in post. So for now, I'll turn that back on, and then I'm going to look at the left and right wall here. And I'm just going to start feathering these to try to kind of blend them together. And then I talked about wanting to fix his coat because the body goes in front. So I'm going to, once again, solo this footage layer, and I'm going to create another reference frame, this time for the last frame here. I want to extend the coat here, and to use generative fill, if I just select this area and generate, it's probably going to want to still generate the shoulder because it's going to see the rest of him. So I'm going to start this by just deleting Andrew. So I'm going to kind of come in here. I'm going to leave the shoulder for now and select this and maybe type remove. I could probably get away without doing a prompt. And now we just have this tiny bit. So I'm gonna kind of come in here and select this, and it should be easier to remove now that the rest of the body is removed. I'm gonna go ahead and save this. And then back in After Effects, I'm going to select just the coat. I can up the exposure here, and maybe I'll select this whole bottom of the coat. I'm going to type coat bottom, and I will go into our footage and select that coat, and I will apply that to the coat layer. So now this coat, if I likewise freeze frame this coat should now move along with everything else. So I will bring that down on this stack. So the final thing we're going to do is add some blood and wounds to these guys' faces. I'm going to go back into Mocha Pro, and I'm going to turn off the processing for the other effects, and I'm gonna go to about the 5-second mark. This is just right before they open their eyes. This is the frame that I want to do our painting on before they open their eyes. And so I'm going to start here and just draw around their faces. And this one we're going to call John. And then I'm going to draw Andrews as well. And for both of these, I'm going to turn on mesh tracking. So you see it creates this mesh on his face. And then I'm also going to track the mesh on John. And I'll turn on adaptive contrast on both of them. Because this is really flat footage, I think the adaptive contrast will help get more. And you can see that it added a lot more points. And so I will track both of them forward, and then we'll track it backwards. And so this looks like the last frame of Andrews. So I'll click this button, and then I will continue tracking John's. Okay, so I will save these out, and we will go to this 5-second mark, and I will expand to the edges. And you can see kind of in here how this is working. It generated a mesh, and then each one of these points tracks to kind of see how that mesh would move. And you can see here when John opens his eyes, you can see these points moving. You can see these points on his forehead moving. So this should give us some nice movement of the effects that we're going to add. So I will exit out of this and save. And for blood effects, I tend to find it's easier for me to find pictures of someone with some bloody makeup. In this case, it's like a zombie picture, and then try to roughly match skin tones to the original and use that as my compositing technique rather than finding gore assets with alpha that I need to try to then manipulate. I'm going to come in here and kind of select an area like this. Then we're going to try to put this onto John. Maybe I'll make the area a little bit larger, and we'll see how we can kind of match his skin tones. So we want to do this under the color correction, or we can just turn off our color correction. And what I did was I turned down the brightness and raised the greens and reds and pulled down the blue to kind of match the skin tone the best I could. And then it looks like I also did a levels adjustment here in this exposure effect. So I kind of used a few effects to try to match the skin tone the best I could. And then I additionally did a linear color key here to kind of pull out the skin tones at the beginning. So, you know, I could turn off all of these and kind of select the skin tone in here. And then what I'm kind of left with here then is this. Then I can turn back on my rough color correction to kind of see what this may end up looking like. And we can kind of feather this in here, and you know, we kind of have a nice looking wound here now. And once I'm done adding these, I'm going to take the ones on John's side and I will pre-compose it and call it John Blood. And I will take the ones on Andrew and I will pre-compose those and call them Andrew Blood. Then I'm going to take the Mocha Pro effect and I'm going to paste it onto John's layer. And I'm going to open Mocha Pro and delete the other tracks. For whatever reason, I have trouble when there's multiple tracks, making sure it's picking the right one. So I'm going to save this out with only John's, and then I'm going to go to module renders. I'm going to check render and go to stabilize warp. And now John's blood should be stained with his head. And I will do the same thing for Andrew's. So now I'll move this punch-in layer to the top. Maybe I will take these blood layers and pre-compose them and add pixel motion blur so that as the move is happening, they have blur alongside everything else. We could add grain and a couple other little things, but the shot's looking pretty good. Let's take a look.
Player 432. Looking for these.
Thanks for watching, guys. Now for the contest, go onto our Instagram. That's Pixel Planet Studios. Follow Liminal Space and Shape Cleveland, and you'll be entered to win one of these t-shirts. Contest goes through the end of Friday. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good luck.